There are forces of good and forces of evil at work in the world today. What are these forces? Who is responsible for the good? And who is responsible for the evil? Richard Schaff talks about current events which are rarely discussed by the mainstream media, events that affect us all. This program seeks to identify, to inform, and to equip the believer for what's ahead. Welcome to What in the World is Going On?
What is going on, and I'm your host, Richard Schaff. The program is sponsored by Lincoln Log Homes. We are pro-Christian, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-American, and here by the grace of God. When I was planning on doing this today, I had determined that I was going to find just some positive things to bring to you. And then I saw where ex-President Trump was going to be speaking at CPAC, and I kind of waited until that, which occurred yesterday. So here we are, with CPAC fresh on my mind. Boy, it was really great watching our former president. It inspired me, as I know it did you, fellow patriots. It even made me feel a little better when I woke up this morning, the day after. He gave me hope. Gave me hope in a tomorrow for our country, for our freedoms. It was wonderful hearing him. And I see where he did easily win a CPAC straw vote. They had a poll out there, and he won it, capturing 70% of the votes. Florida, Ron DeSantis came in second with 21% in the hypothetical poll. No one else among the 19 potential White House contenders winning more than 1%. Trump said, and I quote, "I want to personally thank each and every one of you for your incredible support." He noted this as he gave the audience the keynote address minutes after the announcement of the results. At CPAC straw vote in February in Orlando, Trump had won only 55% of the vote. You know, CPAC has long been the nation's largest and most influential gathering of conservatives. The conference was strongly supported Trump ever since his 2016 presidential election. In a second question asked in Dallas about who could capture the nomination if Trump were not on the ballot, DeSantis easily won with 68% of the vote. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo came in a distant second with 5%, followed by Donald Trump Jr. and Ted Cruz at 4% each. DeSantis, a Trump ally, has shot up in popularity among conservatives across the country for his vehement opposition to the lockdowns and his coronavirus restrictions during the pandemic. DeSantis also won the second straw poll question in Orlando, finishing with 43% in the hypothetical nomination. 88% of the 1,500 plus CPAC attendees at the three-day Dallas event took part in the poll, said they strongly approved of the job Trump did as president, and another 10% gave somewhat approval. Saw a lot of reports today, as I said the day after, selected this one to reference from a few things, where, as I watched it, I saw Trump tell the CPAC members, "We'll stop the left-wing cancel culture." Former President Donald Trump, during a keynote speech at the CPA conference in Dallas Sunday, vowed to secure our borders. He vowed to stop left-wing cancel culture, to restore fair elections, and to make America great again. Joe Biden has brought this country to the brink of ruin, Trump said. Even right here in Texas, we're the epicenter of a border and migration crisis unlike anything anyone has ever seen before in the history of our country. A quote from Donald Trump. He noted, and I continue to quote him, "At the same time, they've totally obliterated your energy industry." Under my administration, noted Trump, we achieved a historic reduction in illegal immigration. We ended the horrible catch and release, where we catch a criminal and then release him into the country. We actually said, nope, It's called Stay in Mexico. Continuing to quote our former president, it worked very well and it had the support of Mexico. We reduced drugs pouring across our border. We reduced them by the highest percentage ever in the history of our country. We shut down the migrant caravans. We dealt a crippling blow to MS-13. We deported criminal aliens by the thousands and thousands, and we built almost 500 miles of wall. Biden's border crisis, he said, quote, is helping drive an unprecedented crime wave. The bloodshed and the violence in these cities is reaching epidemic proportions, noted Trump. I'm continuing to quote him. Homicides are up 42% in Los Angeles, 37% in Philly, 68% in Atlanta, and over 500% in Portland over this time last year. In New York City, crime is out of control. It's at record levels. Trump also hit Democrats for their stances on law enforcement, gun rights, critical race theory, and election laws. They're hard at work to abolish the First Amendment, he noted. He noted, why not get rid of all of the amendments? For the speech at the CPAC event, Trump's second address to the group since he left office. We celebrate our rich heritage and our national traditions, he noted. We honor George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and all of our national heroes. And of course, we always respect our great American flag. We believe in patriotic education of our children, and we strongly oppose the radical indoctrination of America's youth. We are committed to defending innocent life and to proudly uphold the Judeo-Christian values of our nation's founders. Our glorious American inheritance was passed down to us by generations of patriots, those who gave everything they had, their sweat, their blood, and even their way of lives to build America into the greatest nation in the history of the world. And we're not going to let it be taken away from us by a small group of radical, left, Marxist maniacs. Again, quoting Donald Trump. Kind of a good way to start off on some positive comments, I thought. Wanted to share that with you before I go into some other good headlines. Things that might make you proud to be an American, proud to be alive, proud as most of us that we got to vote for Donald Trump upon 2 occasions, and certainly hopeful we'll get that chance again. Another headline noted something that really has a tremendous underline. I want to point it out to you. There was a shooting. Yeah, there's a lot of shootings. This up in Chicago, of course. But there was a particular spree that ends after a man with a concealed carry license takes down the attacker. You know, when we're talking about guns, where can they be? Well, many of us think we ought to have armed people in school, while other people say, oh no one on the school campus should have guns. Well, here's a case, one of many, where it was lucky, fortunate, that there was someone there with that concealed carry permit and the gun. Chicago police said if it weren't for a good guy with a gun, a criminal who shot and killed one woman and injured 2 others on Independence Day, could well have gotten away with the heinous attack. What happened? Well, according to the Chicago Tribune, officers were alerted to an active shooting in a South Austin alley at around 10:45 on a Sunday night, 10:45 p.m. A local police notification said that a man in his 30s had approached the area and began shooting at the victims. By the time the police arrived, they discovered 4 people wounded by gunfire. But after assessing the scene, officials reportedly determined that one of the wounded individuals was the gunman, the one who'd opened fire on the 3 others, and before an uninvolved bystander had stepped in to neutralize the attacker. Yep, this uninvolved bystander, a 49-year-old man, had a concealed carry license, and had he reportedly witnessed the attack and quickly responded by drawing his weapon and shooting at the gunman, striking him in the arm and hip. The Tribune reported that the 3 victims in the attack included a 45-year-old woman, a 32-year-old man, and another 49-year-old man, whose identities had not been made public. One was shot in the head during the attack and was pronounced dead at the scene, according to police. The two others suffered gunshot wounds to their bodies. They're both taken to a nearby hospital where their conditions have stabilized. The attacker, later identified as a 34-year-old Calvin Gonigan, was also taken to a nearby hospital and listed in serious condition. While at the hospital, he was placed in custody, police noted. The Chicago Police Department announced that Gonigan had been charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, 1 count of aggravated assault, and 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder. Of course, all felonies. Anything else? The violence came as a part of a particularly bloody 4th of July weekend in Chicago, as more than 100 residents were shot and 17 were killed. Sadly, the holiday violence was only a continuation of what Chicagoans have been experiencing over the past year. Yet in the face of a soaring crime wave, Democrat Mayor Lightfoot has continued to blame guns and systematic racism for the city's woes, and she's called for increased gun control to help curb the violence. But take a look at this case at least. Taking the gun out of a good guy's hand would have only led to further violence. Another positive headline. Eric Trump notes, "There's a war on our flag and one on our country." Report came to me 2 weeks ago. With fireworks over around Mushmore canceled once again and college students saying that they're ashamed to say they're Americans, you know there's essentially a war on patriotism and on the flag. That, a quote from Eric Trump. Continuing to quote our former president's son, "They want to get rid of our Pledge of Allegiance. They want to get rid of our national anthem. They want to get rid of Under God." Trump, son of former President Donald Trump and vice president of the Trump Organization, reported this Monday on the Craig Kelly Report. He continued, and I'm quoting, "I mean, there is a war on in this country. There is a war on this flag, and it's quite frankly one of the reasons my father ran to become commander-in-chief. It's one of the reasons, frankly, that I believe that he won." Eric Trump said that people are, quote, "sick and tired of the nonsense," and said that once the college students seen in a recent video saying they see the United States as oppressive and unjust have had time to travel abroad and see what other countries are like, they will likely realize how incredible this country is. Trump said 2 tweets, one by Representative Cori Bush, Democrat of Missouri, slamming the 4th of July as representing the freedom of white people only as ironic. When they say that the 4th of July is about American freedom, remember this: the freedom they're referring to is for white people, Bush noted. "This land is stolen land and black people still aren't free," Bush tweeted. In a follow-up tweet, she added, "We know what our freedom looks like. End the slavery permitted under the 13th Amendment. End the war on drugs. End police violence. End health care, housing, and education apartheid. We are the experts on our own liberation, and we won't stop until it's won." But Trump noted that Bush, who is black, is herself one of the most powerful people in the U.S. government. She's a congresswoman. I mean, she's doing awful right, isn't she? Who is she to complain? Oh, yes, but one of the complainers. Another headline I wanted to bring to your attention. This severely wounded disabled Marine stands for the anthem at a National Hockey League game. Brought to me by Wayne Dupree. Those of us who tell the hateful communist left that they're spitting on the face of our vets when they kneel, or turn their back on our U.S. flag during the national anthem, are saying that because of Marines like this amazing man, because not even a horrific severe injury could stop disabled Marine Ty Edwards from standing up with pride during the National Anthem at Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Finals. See, Ty was injured while serving in Afghanistan back in 2008, and doctors told him he'd never stand or walk again. But look at him now, standing tall and proud for his country's national anthem. Now, this is what Americans want to see during sports games, not spoiled, rotten, filthy, rich athletes kneeling and disrespecting our flag, all in the name of oppression. Let this Marine be the fuel that keeps us fired up and fighting against these communists so that we can save our country and get back to America first. And another wounded vet, this one running for a Senate seat. Yeah, he'd been hit with sensitive content warning by Twitter on a picture that shows him saluting the flag. U.S. Army veteran Sam Brown, who was seriously wounded during a fight in Kandahar, Afghanistan, again in 2008, this time after an IED blew up his Humvee, he announced last month that he's exploring a run for the U.S. Senate from Nevada. Brown explained in a tweet, quote, "I'm a man of God. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a veteran. And I am an American. The road to freedom is never easy," he noted. "I fought for this great nation once, and I'm willing to do it again. Let's get this nation back on track." After opening his Twitter account in April, Brown had made 2 tweets last month and then one this month on Independence Day, July 4th. In the tweet, which went viral over 35,000 likes, Brown shared a picture of him saluting while in uniform that said, quote, "Freedom isn't free." In the tweet, Brown wrote, "On July 4th, 1776, America was born. On July 4th, 2021, we're still the best country on the planet." Brown then tweeted out today that the photo had been flagged for sensitive content and shared a screenshot of the tweet and the message. "Hey Twitter, I didn't realize my face was sensitive contact. Ironic considering I only have 3 tweets and just filed a run for the U.S. Senate only a few hours ago. Was it my scars or the fact that I salute the flag? Regardless, neither are going away, and neither am I." A quote from Brown. Boy, wouldn't that be a great guy to have in the U.S. Senate? Gives us all hope, doesn't it? And do you see why that made one of my positive headlines for this week? Another one, 80% see voter ID as important, an important security measure. This came to me from a report by the Republican National Committee and appeared on YouTube. A large majority of registered American voters, 80% in fact, back voter identification as an important security measure. This according to a new poll. As Democrats and Republicans battle over election integrity and the measures that they have in key battleground states and Congress, the Republican National Committee, commissioned by Election Integrity Polling Project, conducted by former White House senior advisor Kellyanne Conway. In a poll from June identifying as registered Republican voters, only 71% non-Republicans, 36% independents, 31% Democrats, and 4 others. Of this group, 78% said they support a proposed voting plan with these 5 principles. 1, presenting voter ID. 2, signature verification. 3, chain of custody controls. 4, bipartisan election observers. Number 5, cleaning up the voter rolls. These measures are large pieces of Republican past election integrity measures in key battleground states. Election integrity is very much on the minds of American voters right now. This is a report from Conway to Republican Chair Ronna McDaniel. Happened Wednesday, July 7th. Americans want to make sure that post-pandemic, in that period, that we get voter integrity measures right, that they're fair to everyone, and that we don't use them as an excuse for very specific and occurring as a result of the once-in-a-century pandemic. Among the poll's other findings, 89% were in favor of purging voter rolls of dead voters or residents who've been moved out of the voting locales. It's not just Republicans who are concerned about election integrity, the RNC stated in the release of the polls. Nearly 2/3, 63% of all voters reported that the issue of election integrity was either their top issue or in their top 2 or 3 when deciding how to vote. Voter ID and reviewing voter rolls are two key pieces of Republican-backed election integrity measures, but they've been panned by Democrats as a power grab, voter suppression, or a function of racism. When asked directly if voter ID laws are racist, the majority disagreed, the statement noted, adding, 77% of all voters reject Democrats' claim that racism is behind voting integrity laws and believe one party uses it for political purposes, not for electoral progress. And it's down the list here a ways because there's so many, but I got to share this one with you as one of the positive headlines to hit my desk in the past couple of weeks. Back on July 4th, Hobby Lobby had a newspaper ad inviting people to, quote, know Jesus as Lord and Savior. Well, it did spark an atheist response. Chain Hobby Lobby unveiled a Bible-inspired advertisement over the July 4th holiday that invited people to know Jesus, and immediately, of course, drew the ire of a prominent atheist group. Hobby Lobby's newspaper ad, which ran in popular outlets like the Boston Globe, shows a child holding an American flag with the bolded words at the top proclaiming, quote, one nation under God. Under that well-known proclamation, words from Psalm 33:12 follow. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. Hobby Lobby's ad then goes on to include a list of quotes from the Founding Fathers, from Congress, from presidents, and texts from the Supreme Court rulings that speak to the importance of God, faith, and biblical truth. Many people responded by praising the ad and encouraging America to turn closer to God. Positive reactions range from God bless to I love this, I love you, and I bring us more. Despite the craft store riling some atheist feathers, the ad made an intriguing impact. The purpose of the ad is perhaps most summarized by the words at the bottom of the ad, an invitation for people to know Jesus. If you'd like to know Jesus as Lord and Savior, visit Need Him Ministry at www.chataboutjesus.com. This is the text that at the bottom of the ad. That included with an offering for a free digital Bible to those that were interested in it. Hard one to beat there, isn't it, folks? And kind of tying in it was it over in Kenya, a nation over in Africa, the secretary of the Kenyan Atheist Society resigns after accepting Jesus Christ as Lord. I'm going to read you the report I got. It did come out in June of this year. Late last month, the secretary of an organization promoting atheism in Kenya stepped down after accepting the Lord Jesus Christ. In a video shared by the Atheists in Kenya Society that quickly captured international attention, Seth Mahiga told worshipers in a church that he'd be stepping down as secretary, which was met with praise from the congregants. The Bible said that every knee will bow, a man who appeared to be the pastor tells Mahiga as the church stands and worships God for his conversion. Former atheist in Kenya secretary Seth Mahiga in church today accepting Jesus Christ and announcing his resignation. This, an atheist group, wrote themselves on Twitter when sharing the video on May 30th. The day prior, the group confirmed that Mahiga would be stepping down and wished him all the best in his newfound faith. This evening, regretfully, our secretary, Mr. Seth Mahiga, made the decision to resign from his position as secretary of our society. This, the Twitter post explained, sharing with them at this time a formal statement from the Atheists in Kenya Society. Seth's reason for resigning is that he had found Jesus Christ and no longer was interested in promoting atheism in Kenya. Pretty good headline, isn't it, folks? Kind of like the bottom line. And I do want to mention this one briefly. You've all seen on television where Tucker Carlson has been getting a lot of heat, where he has revealed that the NSA is not allowed to spy on Americans, but they have previously spied on him. One report that I've got in front of me where He was telling this on Maria Bartiromo. They're not allowed to do it. The NSA can't promote or monitor the conversations or communications of American citizens. It's not to say no part of the government can do it, but the NSA is prohibited from it. Well, at least they're supposed to be. But as Tucker Carlson outlined, they're not stopping them from leaking info on him to the libs in the mainstream media. And why? You know why. They want to discredit him, because that's what government does. It's what lib bureaucrats do. You know? It's all the Democrat way. It's how the media works under Biden as an arm of the state. It's entirely real, Tucker said repeatedly. They essentially confirmed it. Tucker announced that he was contacted by a journalist who informed him that the NSA leaked his emails to the journalist. You can't have a free press if the intel agency are secretly spying on you and then using that information to threaten you and control you. A quote from Tucker Carlson. And thank you, my brother, for bringing this out. I want to close with this. This isn't really a news release, but it is, and it's a factual report. You see, there's a pastor that got kicked out by COVID police in Canada, and he's now in the U.S. And this is really a dedicated man, a dedicated pastor. Would to God that we had some of these taking a stand with him, pastors here in America. Andrew Pawlowski, a Polish-born pastor, recently gained international fame when Canadian authorities came to arrest him for the crime of holding a church service on Easter. Get out! Out! Immediately out! Pawlowski roared at the police. This is on a video that instantly went viral. Pastor Pawlowski is traveling through America now on his Courageous Faith Tour, and on June 15th he spoke to an overflowing crowd in Manhattan. A quote, "Good people don't obey the tyrants," he bellowed, standing in front of an American flag. "If you're not pushing evil away, you're part of the problem." A quote from the good pastor. As the audience listened, transfixed, Pawlowski described his year-long persecution by authorities in Calgary, Canada, where his Cave of Adullam Church is located. In the name of COVID restrictions, police routinely swarmed his church services, photographing every woman and child. This is what the communists did in Poland, he noted. They'd send you pictures of your wife and children to intimidate you. The police also gave me tickets for millions of dollars. I told them, give me $1 billion. Why don't you think big? A quote, again, from the pastor. The obvious absurdities of COVID restrictions infuriating Pawlowski, who sees an evil agenda behind the contradictions. In Canada to this day, prayer is illegal, but you can go to IKEA, you can go to abortion clinics, you can go to a marijuana store. I could bring my whole church to an IKEA store and have services there. But if one person comes to my church, I can be arrested. It's not about a virus, it's about control. Amen to that. On Easter weekend, authorities sent 100 police officers and 52 police cars to stop our church service. After Pawlowski tossed them out, they followed him home and arrested him on the highway. They chained him, tortured him, and threw him into solitary confinement where he slept on a concrete floor. Remember, folks, this is in Canada we're talking about. Pawlowski speaks in tones unfamiliar to most Westerners. He speaks with the passion of unbridled masculine strength. A quote from him, "Men have forgotten their job to be protective. The family is out of balance. In the West, men want to be women, and women want to be men." End quote. Drawing inspiration from Joan of Arc and biblical figures like Daniel and Esther, Pawlowski spoke of how his faith strengthened him to fight for the future. Why are young people turning to drugs and suicide? Because not enough people are giving them hope. There are lots of evil people in government. They're destroying the next generation. They're putting muzzles on your kids, muzzles like a dog. You're telling them you have no identity, no voice. You're a slave. The more Pawlowski bellowed with rage, the more the audience cheered. There was a large contingent from the Polish community who learned of the event from Polish social media. He's risking his life and his family's safety a Polish woman told me. He speaks for millions. People oftentimes sit at home, watch TV, but here's a man of action. David, a young man from China, saw a possible Chinese influence behind the assault on Pelosi. He noted, I went to school in Canada. There's a lot of connection to China. Pelosi, who's out on bail, faces 4 years in prison. His friend, Pastor Tim Stevens, who was recently arrested in front of his 7 sobbing children, also faces an uncertain future. This is your destiny, America. It is if you don't fight back, warned Pelosi. If you don't rise up like I did and say, no, get out, you will not have freedom. Pelosi's impromptu tour was arranged by FEC United, a grassroots organization seeking to restore America's freedom in faith, education, and commerce. Cindy Chaffin, the tour's organizer, implored the crowd not to surrender to discouragement. God is working miracles in this country, in America. Those of us on the ground can feel it, she noted. Pelosi certainly didn't sound discouraged. I have millions in penalties and may go to jail, but you don't see me depressed or terrified. Joan of Arc said, act and God will act. I pray we will rise up a parade of lions. When a lion roars, other lions are attracted. Thank you for letting me share these with you this week. Bottom line, what do we need to do? We need to pray for the preservation of our republic in an hour of need. Yes, we can give thanks for the things that I just shared with you. And now it's our turn to take that stand for God and country. Goodbye until next week.